I see the competitive threat from sharing platforms where people can just list their own cars and then other people can rent it, and it kind of takes you out as the middleman with that. I assume response to that threat as a business is to build enough revenue, momentum, and scale so that you can be an established player and provide value outside of people just doing it themselves in some way. And then number two, potentially appealing to a particular niche, high level of service for high value clientele. I assume they're the ways that you would respond to that threat. I'm very competitive and I'm very big on defensibility. From what I know about the market that you're in at the moment, it appears that those opportunities are just there to build this business to scale and then to be able to have that defensibility in the scale. What it sounds like strategically you're suggesting is that you become kind of like one of those premium holiday rental type, if you imagine in a different industry, the premium holiday rental place that you call and say, hey, what have you got on your books? This is roughly the idea of what I'm looking for. And then someone personally will select a property for you. You have a concierge service taking you into the property. It's a whole different experience to like Airbnb or Booking.com or organizing it yourself, which is important to that industry. Top customer service actually underpins the luxury market. When you scale a business, you will have the choice of, at scale, being a price-based operator. Like AirAsia is a scaled company, but there are plenty of other airlines that are in different market segments in terms of pricing that are also scaled as well, but they have different approaches to get there. The question I have is that market large enough for you to hit the scale that you want to hit in order to have the critical mass for this business to work and be profitable and hire a manager to run it so Ian can then step back and be the owner rather than someone operational in the business. The reason I say that is it's good to have an idea of that picture before going and then building it, because what you don't want to do is get 2-3 years down the track and go, oh, we've completely flooded the market. There aren't more people to buy it. Then you might look at acquiring other businesses, or you may need to look at, okay, well, what would it cost to potentially replicate the model in another city? It might be you have a centralized customer service and centralized booking operations, and that will centralize those fixed costs. But then you may have your actual delivery happening in different cities, and you may have a few different assets, or maybe you do Gold Coast and Brisbane, so you can move the assets between them if you have to for those you do own. Or maybe you look at it and go, you know what, the Gold Coast just doesn't have enough scale for what you want to do to get the business to the point of revenue that you can spend 120, 150K on the manager and step back. Maybe you need to design the business to be a national play from day one and build that in from now, if that makes sense. The good thing is that's really promising that someone else already has that set up, because we can look at that and say, great, that validates that that's possible as a business model, and the financial dynamics are obviously working for them. So wonderful. Look at that through a competitive lens and say, okay, well, where might you be able to differentiate from that business? Do you want to just compete with them because they're the only one and everyone needs some competition, which is great? That's absolutely an option. But there is also potentially the opportunity that you have another angle or another strategy or some other way of doing things that will differentiate you really well. Or maybe there's enough room for both of you and you won't even bump into each other. That's also another option as well.